the big game in the early window, and as we were talking during the week about why you don't want some sort of certain games to be on so early in the season. I almost felt like we were being spoiled seeing the Chargers Chiefs on that first Amazon game on Thursday night, but that was for that reason. The Baltimore Ravens going up against the Miami Dolphins, which finished in a 42-38 win for the Dolphins, who were down 35-14 at the end of the third. First off, Ollie, what a game! 6 touchdowns for Tua, 3 touchdowns, but some incredible play at certain points from Lamar Jackson, including the 70-odd yard run. Never mind talking about the Dolphins wide receiver core. This game had literally everything for the neutral. So enjoyable, but how do you give up 28 points in the fourth quarter? Please tell me, man. How did they do that?
I mean, it's never been done before, so I don't know how. I mean, it was Tua's day, obviously. And the thing with Tua is his role for the Dolphins essentially is to be like Drew Brees, is hit all the throws. And I know that sounds simplistic and dumb, but guys are wide open in that system. And that's the way Drew Brees played his entire career, which was I hit every throw I'm supposed to hit, and then maybe I make two that I'm not supposed to hit a game, and that is the difference between us winning and losing. I don't have to go out there and be Justin Herbert and hit 6 throws a game that are crazy throws that drag my team, to within a chance of winning in Arrowhead. That's not who Tua has to be. He's got these guys that are wide open all over the field, and he hit them, right? The Gesicki throw is an unbelievable throw. The final throw of the game where he's moving and rolling, I think he hits Jalen Waddle, right? The killer shot for the final touchdown. That's a throw that he's not necessarily expected to hit in terms of the placement of the ball, and he hits it. And then he did hit the majority of the layups this week, which he did not hit last week, particularly down the final stretch of the game after struggling in the first half. What was really interesting is, one, there is just no way to cover this wide receiving core. It does not exist. There is no way you can go and design. No one has the athletes to keep up with the two of them together. To have Hill and Waddle next to each other, and they've been really smart about how they position them together, and then particularly where they put the third person off of them to make it so your shell is just completely compromised at the snap. There's no amount of rotating or doubling you can do when they're both not the two perimeter guys, and then they'll balance the formation other times and have one on one side, one on the other, and no one else in the vicinity. So they make everything really tight and congested, stick one guy really wide, one other guy really wide. And if they get spread, they make sure those two guys are together. And in both of those situations, which is kind of the bedrock of that offense, you are completely compromised in terms of coverage. There's nothing you can do schematically to roll one certain way to ensure you got the right body position, the right athletes on those guys. It just does not exist. And you can see it in the figures. Remember I mentioned those average separation numbers before with the Colts. Tyreek Hill, have you seen these numbers? Have I shown you these?
No, I could have sworn I seen you were talking about like once he actually caught the ball, the increase on his yardage was
Mhm.
ridiculous.
His average amount of separation from the person covering him, and the league average is 2.9, was 4 yards. He was open by 4 yards on average. That's not just like, oh, those are the good plays. Those are the average plays. He is wide open. Jalen Waddle, 3 yards. These guys are wide open. There is nothing you can do to stop them. And all Tua has to do is hit the throws to wide open players. And that's great. That's what he did in the second half. And the last thing I'll say is, one, the Ravens defense flagged really badly. They were getting after him early in the game. They struggled as the game went along. Injuries took over in the secondary. They got really tired. I saw a cool tweet from NFL's Next Gen Stats that the Ravens defense ran more yards, not in terms of yardage on the field, in terms of the chips and the pads that track how far they're physically running, than any team has ever run, ever, because of how much having Waddle and Hill force you to one, get depth in the defense, right, to try and keep them in front of you. And then it's all these crosses and these deep breaking concepts. So you're just running a long way. And you could see by the end of the game, those guys were huffing and puffing. They could not keep up with the pace of the game. And it was really, really easy for Tua in that fourth quarter, outside of 2 or 3 big boy throws where he had to, really raise his game to a new standard. And he did it. And I'm delighted because I like Tua. And the conversation around him, I think, has absolutely nothing to do with him. It's like this weird dynamic about how you view football. It's got nothing to do with the player himself. So I'm just really pleased that he got his day.
I know you've been very sort of vocal on that relationship with Tua and his new head coach, Mike McDaniel, as well in the off season. It's a great read if people do check out the Read Optional website with Ollie's content. One thing for me from reading up on the Dolphins and reading up on Mike McDaniel is him trying to improve to his confidence down the stretch in certain situations. And I'm not going to lie to you, whenever it was before they got the final touchdown of the game, I genuinely thought, does he have the guts to take this over the line? You know, they're sitting here, they're trying to win this game after coming back, but can the Dolphins actually go and win this game? And I loved watching it. Like, I mean, I love watching Lamar Jackson. I mean, that 75 yarder to Bateman was unbelievable. But Tua and that offense, you know, you said it, you got those two players there, but it's almost like the X factor where you can't really prepare for that. And something tells me, like, the Buffalo Bills, sorry, are sitting at home tonight going, oh, wait a minute, this is interesting.
Well,
This could get interesting in a couple of weeks.
they have the best safety duo in the league, so the calculus is a bit different for them in terms of what they're able to do with their defense. You can layer in a way. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but you can layer the defense in a way to do stuff to them. Right, the Patriots tried it in week 1. The Patriots played really well on defense the second half of that game against the Dolphins. Now those guys were wide open all the time, and Tua just decided not to do it. And I think the confidence thing for McDaniel, there was 4 or 5 plays in the Patriots game where 3-4 yards before he's even open, Tyreek Hill's hand is up because he's got this Randy Moss situation of he knows when he's open because he knows how much quicker he is than everyone else. And it will just take Tua some time to realize, oh, I can just let that go because he's used to having to say, even with all those freaks he played over Alabama, let me give it another beat, another beat, another beat. Actually, I don't want to do that. It's too risky. It's not a risk with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. It's the right decision to launch the ball 25 yards down the field. They'll go get it. Throw it to a patch of grass you think no one can reach, and they'll come down with it. And that's the great thing about that fourth quarter because they were so in a hole, it was like, well, bleep it. What else am I going to do? I'm not going to avoid the deep shot and just take the check down because we're beating the Patriots 14-3, and I can do that. It's like we're getting clubbed. This is a reputational game for me, essentially. People are going to start writing me off. It's the end of Tua. They're going to trade for Lamar Jackson. They're going to go and try and get Tom Brady, all this stuff. And so he was in bleep it mode, and it was great seeing. I hope that he stays on that course. I think Mike McDaniel will be so much happier that they won that way with that historic comeback and him forced to play that way than if they just gone out there and beat them 24-3 and it was a defensive shutdown the way they beat them a year ago. I think that'll be so much better for him long term, for them long term. It's like, hey man, you see, if you just throw the ball to any spot on the field, you've got Mike Gesicki, you got Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill, and those guys can go get it in spots no one else can.